Welcome to another episode of Talk Tonic. I'm Tyler Young, and we are at RetailNOW 2025. I'm sitting down with one of my favorite people, Vern Swedin from Ingage IT. Welcome to the show, Vern.
Tyler, thanks. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate it.
Well, today's topic is going to be an interesting one. It's the shift in sales strategies required to be successful in the point of sale space. Vern, you've done an incredible job at Ingage IT at building value with your customers. And I've watched from the outside as a friend, as a partner on Bold Integrated Payments. So I want to dive into that today. But before we do that, let's tell everybody about you and a little bit of your history.
I grew up a block layers kid, and I realized very quickly, I don't want to do that. Funny. And I got involved in technology very quickly. I was hired into the satellite television industry before DirecTV existed, before Dish Network existed, and ended up spending my career in satellite television. I fell in love with technology. It's always changing. Our competitors are constantly driving what we have to do next. And I'm not a genius when it comes to wonder. I'm not an inventive person. I simply look at things through the lens of how can I fast follow what works. I'm never the guy thinking up what has to be dramatically different. I look at what works and go do that. That's my background.
You mentioned Dish Network, right? Can you tell me about what role you played for the organization?
Yeah, so we were a third party. So do you remember when telephone companies had to resell their long distance through third parties because of monopolies, whatever? I was the president of all commercial services globally. So wherever that started, it would get handed off to our team. We would get about 100 deals a week brought over to us, somebody popping into a Dish Network retail location saying, I live in an apartment complex. I have a nursing home. I need So it sprung out of what's called private cable operation. And it was very not fun because it was hard. It was always in the background. But we were selling the most fun thing ever, which was content. Every business, technology is this path, right? Technology is this must-have, mission-critical thing. But what is it they really want? Because they don't care about the set top. They didn't care how pretty the dish was up on the building. They didn't care about, the distribution system. They cared about HBO and 4K at the end of my life, right? I was always driven by the fact that we were putting content in people's unique situations and giving them access to something that was very difficult. I'm this old, Tyler. When I started, everyone had an antenna on their house and they got about 5 channels. We were bringing 100 channels of digital quality television into people's homes for $20 a month in the middle of nowhere. It was one of the most exciting things I ever did.
What I'm sitting here thinking is the excitement you're showing for what you accomplished then and how now today it is completely expected. That today the consumer just expects to have that experience, and goes to show that if you're not innovating and doing the next thing, then you're falling behind because somebody else is. You also helped innovate the TV market of how we got the shows to TV. Can you tell me about that again?
I'll take it one step further. So I'm driving down the road, coming through Iowa, middle of nowhere, and I see Winnebago in Forest Lake, Iowa, and I thought I should pop in. So I exited to Forest Lake, Iowa, pulled in and asked for the CEO. And they said, yeah, he's around here somewhere. The CEO of a publicly held company in Winnebago.
Wow.
And I asked him, he met with me on the spot. And I said, yeah, I was just thinking, I saw your sign. I was driving up the freeway. I saw your sign and I thought, what are your challenges? Because when people don't camp. I mean, they're not buying tents and going out into the woods. They're buying fifth wheel, 50-foot, 40-foot long RVs, motor coaches. And I'm thinking they probably want entertainment when they get there. And what are you guys doing for that? And he said, yeah, it would be a huge investment. We make 246,000 units a year. And for us to spend $1 on any idea is $250,000. And so we've really, and I said, it's like, I didn't mean to interrupt him, but I did. I was like, what if I put it in for you? What if I put the money in and paid for all the distribution of this?
And how old were you at the time?
I was about 37
years old.
maybe. He thought about that and he goes, why would you do that? And I said, I need a new subscriber base. I need to bring fire to people. I mean, if you want to talk about competition, go compete against Time Warner and Cox Cable and be in those suburban and urban markets and be competitive with a one play product. And they're dishing out internet and phone products and video and DVR and we're a satellite system, right? And I thought, man, we were built for this market. And in less than 15 minutes, Tyler, the ask from the CEO of Winnebago was very simple. Well, can I get one of these in my home? I said, that's a great idea. Why is it that you want to start there? And he said, well, if we're going to put this in all of our units, I need to be a product of that product.
Yeah, and if it's on the go, I need to know it's going to work stationary.
So it wasn't my idea. Again, I'm a fast follower. I sat in a meeting weeks before. There was a company in Plymouth, Minnesota that had this in-motion satellite receiver that they built. It was too expensive. And people didn't know, well, how am I going to wire this in? I got to make holes in my brand new $800,000 camper, right? And I have to put holes in this to make this thing work. Well, if we actually built it in the manufacturing process and had it all done for them and just made an easy, hey, we can bolt this little device on and you can watch TV wherever you go, even in motion, we were going to change the game. It became one of the most successful products to this day in Dish Network. And my friend Sam actually runs that business unit and has just crushed it.
Not a lot of people understand that sometimes massive change to our culture can originate from one or two people's decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was the origin of the TV on the go, working with Winnebago, bringing Dish Network to your campsites, from you stopping in with no meeting, no pre-conversation, and a little bit of luck.
Yeah, it's funny how luck works, right? Am I putting in the right effort? Because chances are those are the luckiest people you'll ever meet. So when you ask yourself, what am I working on? Am I willing to risk it to drive off this exit and see if the CEO will take a meeting? That's not just luck. That's fearlessness of saying, I'm willing to go start a conversation because somebody else had the great idea, not me. All I wanted to do is see if I could induce activity and motivate somebody to share in that same appetite for bringing something of value to people.
I would agree with your statement. I think that we have to put ourselves in the best position to find success. Luck is an element because he was there and he was willing and it worked in his life. But you still chose to go there. You chose to say, I'm going to invest time that may not yield anything because I wasn't prepared for it. I didn't prepare Winnebago CEO for it, but I'm going to go check. I'm going to go knock on the door. I learned this early because my first career in merchant services, or my first position, was sales feet on the street. And you had to knock on door after door after door after door. And I quickly saw that the rule of, 100 doors will get you those 10 sales was so true, but it only depended on the timing of where they were.
Right.
Were they there? Were they willing? Were they frustrated with the last person? It was putting yourself in the position. It doesn't guarantee you success.
Agreed.
When you go there, but you have to go there to even have the opportunity for success.
Go is such a powerful word. The shortest sermon I ever heard in my whole life, the pastor walked out on the front of the stage to address the congregation, and he said, go. And he dropped the mic and walked off.
What'd everybody do?
They sat there wondering, what in the world? How did I miss that? You could see it on the faces. How did I miss the simple ingredient of go? We don't always want to go. There's so much whirlwind in our lives, and we don't always feel that, man, should I go? And you said people. Surround yourself around the right people. Gary was one of the right people for us. When we were looking to say, hey, we need to get in the payments business and we need to go, Gary showed up.
Yeah, who could you go with?
Right. And Gary gave us the confidence and his experience and applied it to our business. And is one of the ingredients that made Ingage IT so successful. Because what Gary says is true. He believes in it, and he's got great foundation in the industry, much like you. If you started out knocking doors, I started out in satellite television as an installer. Somebody installed it at my house, and I said, this is amazing. I'm all in. I actually had to drive. He said the installer, his name was Rick Steen. He's driving around Le Center, Minnesota. He said, yeah, I have 2 in the same little town today. It's so good. Usually I'm driving all over. I said, he installed it and left. I went and found him that day, and I said, how do I do this? How do I sign up? I want to be in this. I knew right then and there that I would spend my adult career in satellite television. And I drove around town, and luckily I found him.
You went and looked
the
for
installer,
his van. Same van.
Found him, got the information of his boss, called his boss that day, and I was working there the next week. 3 weeks later, he said, Vern, I really think you should be in sales. And I said, really? What? Why is that? Right?
Because you go.
Because I go.
Because you go. That's what. It's not even your energy, your excitement, the charisma you carry. It's the fact that you're willing to go. That's something that in sales, and I've hired a lot of salespeople, and I had a call center. Those who were willing to go without all the knowledge was the difference maker. The ones who wanted to study and understand everything were incredibly knowledgeable in the conversation.
Yeah.
But they found a hard time finding the conversation.
Right.
Where the person who's willing to go can find it and then curate their skills and their knowledge based on the practice of talking with more and more and more people.
Yeah.
And I think that go mentality resonates with me. And I think also, that's what I had,
go, brother.
What I had, yeah.
You are all go.
I felt that go. And we talk about you were looking for payments and the right person showed up. Gary showed up. I worked for First National Bank of Nevada, who owned Lighthouse Merchant Services, was the only rep in Oregon. They were taken over by the FDIC. Moneris acquired them, and we transitioned to work for this Canadian company. There's a whole lot of concern. I didn't know where it was going to go, and I had learned how to become an ISO and agent. And so I had just started with North American Bank Card with a partner who was teaching me. This guy, Stan, he showed up, Stan Pullum, I remember him, and we signed 5 deals together as a partnership. Quickly showed it wasn't the right partnership. So I learned early on that.
That who, right? That who
mattered. And clearly that was not the who for me, but he was critical in my career to help give me the knowledge. And I thank Stan. I wish him well in life. I think he went on to become an attorney. I then didn't know who to work with, just like you didn't know who to work with.
How old were you when that happened?
I was 22, 23.
Wow.
Okay.
Young.
And it was clear that there wasn't a career with Moneris. So I had to pivot. Wasn't sure where to pivot. And I was flying to see my friend Dan, who was being deployed to Iraq, and he was stationed in San Antonio. And I went down there for the week before he left, helped move stuff into storage, spend time with him. And on my flight home, it went through Arizona. And John Priori, who's the founder of now Priority Technology Holdings, and Dwayne Haskett were on that same flight.
As luck would have it.
But luck doesn't mean it will become true. I tried to sell a merchant account to the doctor sitting next to me. You know, she had a clinic and a practice she owned, and I don't remember where that went because it was overshadowed with this giant man of John. And I have a knack for knowing who's an owner. You just learn it through going. So I'm like, that guy owns something. So when we stood up, he grabbed me like, hey, and I was like, oh, he wants a merchant account. Yes, he overheard me. And so he's shaking my hand. He's a towering of a man. Him and Dwayne just jump on me, walk me all the way to my next flight. It's boarding, like the door's about to close. I'm like, guys, I gotta go. And they're just pitching me on priority payment systems. Like, this is an ISO.
And
let's recruit this guy. They're going. He overheard me.
So good.
Going. He then went on me, but I still didn't know who to trust. And it sounded great, but I went home and I was looking for who should I board business with. And Dwayne, 3 months later, flew to Oregon, sat me down at Carver Cafe, which is where Twilight filmed out in Oregon. So it's just memories. And they were pretty small at the time. So he took a taxi there and then had to ask me to drop him off at the next client's place, right?
Can you take me to my
He did. He's like, hey, and it seemed genuine and it seemed real. And he was kind of great because he took me to an ISO and he was telling me all about her success. Rest her soul, it was Christy Cleese. She's no longer with us, but she inspired me too. And that built the trust where I felt comfortable going with them. So it's everybody went go, go, go in that scenario. But even I hesitated for 3 months because I wasn't sure. But once I got the trust, that's what Gary does well.
He does.
He builds trust.
He does.
For good reason.
Gary Lou is the who when it comes to that trust. And he doesn't manufacture it either. You can tell that he's when he's thinking deeply about something, he's really seeking that right outcome. And I that kind of caught me off guard when I first met him because of his style of being really thoughtful about that and that action. Because when Gary goes, he knows.
And what Gary does well is he asks a lot of questions. He's very inquisitive. Him and I have been best friends since 2015, really. And from 2015 on, we mentored each other until we merged in 2022. And, then we merge and it changes our dynamic because now we're business partners, not friends supporting each other.
And I have to go do this and you have to go do that. And wait a minute.
I get less time with him now than I did before. And I thought I'd be able to see him more. I moved to Atlanta and we were going to spend time together, but we don't because it's divide and conquer now. And it's then consult and it's so laser focused on decisions that you have to prioritize what to talk to. Back before, Gary and I would talk for 3 hours till the guy's a night owl. So he'd stay up till 1, 2 in the morning. And we would just brainstorm and we'd be able to chat. That doesn't exist today because we're executing. We're going today.
We're going. And he's going and you're going. And sometimes that's not always in the same direction of what has to be done. Our roles and our responsibilities change in business versus friendship. Our role and responsibility in a friendship is so like-minded, right? But in business, we have different roles and responsibilities. And the go is hard to manage.
The go can be hard to manage if you don't point it in the right direction. So while I have the go attitude, you can walk the wrong path and not get to where you're hopeful to get to, but you believe the path you're walking was right at the time. That's where mentors and consultants are so important because they ask the questions. That's what Gary does. He asks the questions. Okay, are we sure about this? And as my role as the CEO and we have these conversations, those conversations I cherish. Because if I have a go thought, he's the best person to question the thought.
Right.
Not from we're partners and I'm going to pivot and go this direction and disagree with you, but from fine tuning the decision to be the most accurate decision. And that's even a double-edged sword because you get paralyzed.
Analysis paralysis.
That's what it is. Analysis by paralysis. And that can happen too. So there's a fine balance with everything in life, but what has to remain is the willingness to decide and go. Because if you don't take the action, then you don't move forward. I actually just posted something about this, how I felt recently because I'm a solo dad 50% of the time. And I want to give a lot of energy and effort to them. And so finding the balance
and focus,
with them is hard for me to accomplish. So I have less time to give other areas in life. So I have to be more concise with my actions, my words, the timelines to complete things that we want to do it. I could talk to you for days and we've had days of conversations, but if they don't move to what's next in life, then they're a consultant. Then it's a mentor conversation. I think they're important to have, but you can have them with a lot of people. And so you have to choose the mentor. You have to choose the right path. You chose a path similar to ours. That's my transition. You're in hospitality.
Yes.
You're in payments and hospitality, just like us. Why did you choose this space?
I was consulting for a number of years. So after satellite television, I did some consulting and I have a knack for 10Xing things. I easily understand go mentality, especially so for instance, this company I was helping, 26 years they were working and they knew their product and their business, but they knew it too well. Because when I came in, it was obvious to me that they're not seeing the right ingredients to actually grow their business. And I think that was offensive to them at first. But I was hired as a president of their business with all the authority that came with that. And I didn't need permission because I'm here to make these changes and go. I left that after 36 months, and I decided at that point, I want to buy a business. I want to buy an existing business.
First time entrepreneur then? I mean, you worked.
Basically, because I didn't want to do a startup. Been around that enough. And I had 1,400 resellers of DirecTV products across. And I saw startup after startup after startup.
Yeah. Right? Come and go.
Right.
Come and go.
Right. And so I knew I didn't want to be a startup. So I decided I wanted to buy a business. So my wife, my poor wife, Darcy, will be married 33 years this October. And 10 years ago, I had decided I'm going to buy a business. And I went and found literally dozens of businesses, printed out all their financials, all their pitch, right? And sorted it down to 3 industries. And one was lithium battery. But I didn't know how I'd monetize the model. So when you ask why I got into this business, I go through the simple lens called the 4 Ps. Marketing is always the core driver of every decision made in business. And it starts with the product and productization. It then moves right into what is my pricing and my business model. Can I make promises to my customers that if you give me $1, I owe you $2? And does my model support that? And then thirdly, you move into placement. Am I going to indirect sell this, direct sell this, or am I going to white label or OEM that? And I have to make all those decisions. And the reality is all scalable business has to do all 3. They have to be in all of those places to actually really scale their business well. And then lastly, you get into promotion. Promotion is the last thing we think about. When we're productized well, we have a great pricing model, we have a great placement capability, then we promote it. And I looked at I call it a 35-year-old company, and I bought it. I acquired it. It was pretty cheap money, inherited a few hundred customers or 100 and some customers. And I felt, I could see myself helping restaurants become more than just restaurants. And what I mean by that is I went and canvassed a number of customers and found out that restaurants were acting as restaurants, not restaurant businesses.
Well, that's a true story for most. It's a passion play.
They're so passionate.
Absolutely.
They just want to bring great, and they oversize things. They don't have systems in place. They don't have ERP, which I came from ERP, electronic resource planning, right? So everything I looked at came from system, and I walked into a restaurant, and the complexity of restaurant amazed me. I was like front of house, back of house, assistant management, ownership.
So what I'm hearing, Vern,
complexity.
Is it wasn't a passion for restaurants or a passion for point of sale. It was you saw a business that had opportunity.
Yes.
And then you dug into the business, and then you saw that their clients had a ton of opportunity for improvement. Was that what you were drawn towards?
Yes. And I thought, great, I don't have to do a startup. I got some customers to work with. And then I buy the company. I wasn't allowed to meet the team. So I bought this
so
blind.
It was in silent.
I bought it blind. I bought it from the owner. Didn't meet the team. So I was like, okay, I'm in. Right?
Well, you're Vern.
Talk about poker,
they're going to like you, right?
Talk about poker.
It doesn't work that way all the time, Vern.
Half left.
Exactly. It does not work that way. Fear kicks in.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, what do we have to lose, right? It's not a startup. And then
just half the employees.
Yeah, just half the employees. A lot of customers didn't like that they had to start a ticket to get service, right? So
right, because you changed it from a we answer the phone and just show up into trying to build a system.
I have to build a system because if I'm going to talk about systems to my clients, I better have great systems, or else why would they believe anything I have to say? And some of those clients refused those systems. And so I got into this wanting to bring value to businesses that weren't really acting as businesses in my mind. And I thought, I want to make promises that I'm going to come here and I'm going to improve your business. I'm going to give you more time back so you can actually live your life and find some more balance. And I'm also going to make a promise that we're going to increase your profitability.
So how did you go about those two statements? Time and profit.
Well, I found, what is it they'd buy and who do they buy it from? Who's their inner circle? And I found out that in 2016, when I acquired DPM, I realized that they had to buy their processing from the processing person. They had to buy their POS from the POS person. They had to buy their networking, real networking, managed networking from a third party in security. They had to buy their phone system from somebody else, and they were buying paper from somebody else, and so on. And it's just, I thought, what a
lot of vendors to manage.
Now you're managing vendors that aren't making any promises other than, hey, I can save you money on your rate.
Or here's the product, buy it,
right.
Use it.
Right. And it became, I looked at it and I instantly knew we need to be better. We need to start adding all these IT things into our business to bring real value. And so we couldn't just be POS. And I felt like POS was going to change. So I literally told this to our team in late August 2016. So about 4 months later, I told our team, this business is going to change dramatically. You're going to see a huge roll up of all these companies, Focus, Future. They were so when I did SWOT, my initial SWOT, the threat category was our vendors are going to get acquired. And then, just like you went through at a young age, I'm doing this thing, they get acquired, it's not a good fit, right? That's usually the case. So that was our threat, external SWOT thinking in August of 2016. And everything started changing, and we started changing our value promise, not value proposition, our value promise to making them clients. I love what you did. I got to meet Carl, Chief Client Officer. And boy, when you start treating them more like a client and really seeing their perspective and allowing them to be seen, heard, and understood, you can treat them like a client and become a trust advisor to them and help them make better decisions. And that's what we've done at Ingage.
I also think when you change the word from partner, customer to client, which encompasses both.
Yeah.
It changes the perspective that you approach the meetings and the outcomes you're looking for.
Servant.
In partnership, this is an equal way. I give, you give. It's partnership. We have to work to the common goal together. As you being my client, I'm here to serve you.
Yep.
You are the client. My job is to improve your business in your life, in your customers, and your employees because you're my client. But when you're my partner, we're in it together. We're shoulder to shoulder, which has a value. And we've done the Tonic Partner Channel. We have Partners of Bold. And there was a transitional thought of moving from CRO to Chief Client Officer and focusing on, even though we did serve, but we served through a partner mindset. Shifting to a client mindset isn't that the client's always right, but how do we improve the experience for our clients? And we stay focused on that. And that's exactly why Carl Gross joined the organization. It's what speaks volumes to him. And just last night, one of our partners said, Carl drilled into us. We said, hey, we have a few of these issues. And right then and there, at our big event last night, we had over 250 people come. There was a bowl that we rode, Noche Neon, right?
Yeah.
It was our neon night. And with over 250 attendees from the show, we had the bowl. We rented out an entire restaurant right here in Vegas. It was quite large, but it filled up. What our partner said is that Carl said, no, pull up the Slack right now. Show me. And he was digging in. It wasn't just, hey, we have this one issue unresolved. It was, what is the issue? Who are you talking to? Show me the Slacks. Give me the details. I'm taking all the notes and I'm going to go ensure it gets resolved. And that's Carl's mindset.
Very focused on, if we're going to have this conversation, I'm going to work on this. I really captured that in our conversation last night. And that is so amazing. He's willing to go.
He has this combo of go with
Clarity.
A lot of thought and clarity.
Yes.
That's the word. Because, he's been with us for 90 days, a little over. And he's been absorbing, right? And he and I are going to get together, hopefully Friday. We're going to clear the schedules just so we can start to download everything and look at, okay, how do we transition everybody from partner to client mentality? Ultimately, we serve our ISV partners, our VAR partners, we serve their merchants. And so now collectively, they are our client, which is really exciting to me. And I'm glad you had a good exchange with Carl as well. When you looked at time is one of your promises. What was your approach to saving time and how have you seen that play out now? Because you started that journey back in 2016 with that vision.
Not having to manage 6 different vendors, right? And having a ticket that whether it's phone or whether it's internet or whether it's your network or whether it's your point of sale or whether it's KVS was new to us back then, right? So having the kitchen video system, having all those things come into one care team. So we call it our care team because that first line of opportunity and communication has to start with a high level of care, knowing that we care about their business. And that becomes our work, not their work of trying to, we had a lot of payments go down. Payment person said, well, it's your point of sale provider. Point of sale provider said, oh, it's your payments person.
It used to be that way. You used to be able to point fingers. Right. That's not the expectation anymore.
We removed that, and that gave time back to them to be able to run their business rather than manage vendors.
So what has that meant for your relationship with the clients?
Depth. There's a depth in relationship because we bring an expertise to their business. And going all the way back to 2016, I knew nothing. I knew nothing about their business. I just knew a lot about business, but I didn't know nothing about the restaurant business. So I was meeting with we used the word partner back then as well, which I always felt was kind of, it got held captive by the big corporate world. They overused this term and nobody actually meant it anymore.
Well, that was one of the issues. Nobody meant it. And that's what set Bold apart.
Yeah.
People felt the difference.
Yes. We are going to do something different, right? We actually took an interest in their day. So we built scheduling software. We built reward software because that was another finger pointing thing going on. Whenever somebody else is the POS and somebody else is your rewards platform and gift cards, that was a whole crazy. We found that one of our customers wanted to switch their processing. They held their gift card. They said, you owe us $250,000 to give us your data. And so we were alarmed by that. And we said, yeah, we're not going to allow that. We're going to step in and take ownership of this and help that transpire because you, one, don't have the expertise to get through that knothole. We do. And we're going to so it's really taking the responsibility for things as well. So when we talk about what did we do with their time, consider it our responsibility. That's what a great
did you see that result? You had more depth with the client.
Yes.
But what was the real benefit for your organization to take on all of these responsibilities with your care team?
Have you ever heard of multiplying margin? Have you ever heard of this? So I was consulting a company that was manufacturing these really large projects. And I was like, well, if we sell it, wait, stop. If you buy this we make it for $100, we sell it to a reseller for $130 to make, 25 points. And they then mark it up and they're selling it for $200 to the general contractor. The general contractor now takes this $200 item and sells it to the integrator for $400. We've now have a multiplying margin issue. And so when one vendor steps in and says, I will be your all tech, I make a certain margin based off all of my products, and I'm not paying margin out to multiple providers that might be getting it from somebody else at a cost and then white labeling. That's what we did. So
sounds like a lot of benefits here because I'm thinking margin.
Orange.
Yeah. Margin stacking is what it was in my head because it stacks every single transaction, just like taxes take a piece of every single transaction.
We're having such a good conversation and you bring up taxes.
Well, they line up together because not only does cost go up as it stacks or multiplies, but taxes go up across the board, which means everyone is paying a lot more in taxes and not netting as much themselves, which drives costs up even more at each organization. Trying to drive towards a margin they're trying to achieve means, okay, raise the price. And the next person raises the price. The next person raises the price.
And so as an all tech provider, we could mitigate all of that, give them their time back. We could actually save them money, and we actually made more money because our share of wallet with that customer, that client, that partner, that increased for us because we were only making a couple $100 a month, but we only had a couple $100 a month of value to offer to them. And so when we started growing our business, we're 30 people. We're a dealer that has 30 people.
Well, Vern, what I think hopefully resonates with people is that you have to change.
You do.
Your business changed, and it led to all these other products that you're offering. It led to more knowledge required by your team members.
Depth.
Which created depth, which creates retention.
Yes.
Which creates referrals.
Yes.
And it's a great way to grow your business. But it does require a team that can learn all these different products that you're providing and be able to manage them. You mentioned losing half of your team. As you transitioned your organization, how did that transition get received by your staff? And how did you manage the exodus?
Well, the 3 people that were still there were looking for other jobs.
So no one stayed in here. No one stayed in here.
There was no vision. And when somebody uses the word vision, it better apply to the person you're talking to, because nobody wants to hear about your vision if it's not a shared vision. And so I created a shared vision. I wanted to start a business. My wife and I have done really well in our business and our lives. And we intentionally said, we'll invest millions of dollars into a business and then give it away to our employees. Give not an ESOP. Nope. We're going to give that away. We're going to share that ownership with our team. We did that partly because there's this thought in our heads that if we have too much, we'll get haughty and we'll kind of see ourselves in a light that probably is not true. And if we don't have enough, what might we do that isn't fair or valuable?
We've talked about that before, and you have a unique view on it because you've worked with billionaires.
Yeah. Some of my bosses were billionaires. And so if you want to meet somebody with a very strong opinion,
yes,
talk with billionaires.
Talk with billionaires. But you also, and I'll put some words in here, but also pointed out that those resources didn't bring that happiness. And if you had too much or too little, so you uniquely have aimed for this middle spot that I'm not sure a lot of people, even myself, understood until we talked about it. So can you break it down in more detail?
So it starts with this simple, where do you find great truth, right? So I read a Bible. And so I came across this passage that said, give me neither too much, that I might be haughty and full of myself and not seek God, or if I have too little, I might steal or lie or not represent God rightly. And I thought, boy, there's a need in our lives to say, what is enough so you can be, and the key word, Tyler, is how generous do you want to live? How generous does somebody want to live with their time, their talent, and their treasure? And I wanted to be massively generous to be massively impactful in people's lives. And through business was a great venue to do that in, because last I looked, everyone's working.
We are to work, right? We are to work the garden.
Work and find a humbleness. So it actually says to work in humbleness with our hands. If you want to find a peaceful life, be humble and work with your hands, right? My hands are built around Jonathan Argis, president of our fintech group. He's here with us. Jonathan and I were talking this morning about how do we actually bring consensus. And I shared with him, Jonathan, I report this to the team. I spend 6 hours and 15 minutes a day in individual conversations every single day in our team, plus do all my work. 6 hours and 15 minutes a day on average in individual conversations, because I don't like to try to build strategy and be strategic in a large group organization without putting the investment in on a one-on-one basis to say, here's what we're talking about. Let's agree on this. Let's disagree. Let's save everyone else the hassle. And let's all of us have this depth of understanding together. So when we come together with a group, we're talking about the right things and sharing in things we've already known in our knower that we can act on, right? That's a powerful statement in corporations. I used to sit in meetings 20 to 30 hours a week, knowing I was going to show up in the next meeting a month later talking about the exact same things without any go, because it was consensus versus individualism.
So going with the go, how you combated the exodus of people and to establish the business with a core group was you decided to have a shared vision and a shared win.
Yes. And we did it individually together. I mean, you don't go from 7 people to 30 people without really having a shared individual vision with one another. Gary actually introduced me to a concept, working genius. It's such a powerful emoter, right? And we took our whole team of 30 through the widget, through the wonder, invention, discernment, galvanizing, enablement, and tenacity. And we found where people would work in their genius. And so I made a claim to our team, because if you take care of your team, they'll take care of your clients. And so I said this months ago, right when Gary introduced that. Literally within 1 week, every team had gone through it. And I made a claim in our team meeting on we have a Monday morning leadership meeting. And I said, guys, what we're going to do next is we're going to remove all your frustration. But what we had to do is so what I find in a client that's frustrating, I have teammates that don't find that frustrating at all. And I've proven this. So our team works in their genius first. And wherever it's a frustration, we find a partner, a buddy, we call it, and you start working that. And we're seeing this unbelievable coolness.
It definitely changes when people work in their energy. And so those of you that have not seen Working Geniuses, it's the concept that there are things that you do that bring you energy and energize you.
Yes.
For example, if I had to read legal contracts, I would take a nap every single day. And when I do have to read them, I don't do anything else because it drains me.
Yeah.
Once you identify your working genius, if you spend more time doing the things that give you energy, then you can avoid burnout. Then you don't feel as tired. The working genius helps you identify those areas in an organization that can position you into that place. And Patrick Lencioni is the brain. It was his brainchild to create this. And in one of his examples, they had a new startup, or they had a new employee. He was young and he was very good at galvanizing. So they said, you're going to galvanize the meetings. You're going to come in and lead the meetings. Yet he had less knowledge than everybody else in the room. He had less experience, but he facilitated and it was successful.
When you are in your genius, it brings you energy. It doesn't steal energy. And if you have more energy, you get to go. When you have energy for something, you can go and go and go, and not even slow down in the process. And so we found that by getting people working in their geniuses, removing them from their frustrations, finding a buddy, we have raised the energy of our team double.
The energy equates to willingness as well. It also goes to enjoyment, to joy, because when you're not working in an area of enjoyment, even if you're capable and extremely good at it, it still weighs on you in ways that you don't understand when you get to do what you enjoy. For example, I love talking to people. I can talk to people for hours and I go home and I feel great. And if I have to, again, read legal contracts, it's my biggest weakness, because I was once told, do not sign anything you don't understand.
Right.
And so I have to go through it and often Google words and get advice of what are the meanings of this paragraph.
Yes.
Because I can interpret it 3 different ways.
And so can lawyers.
And so can lawyers. So that's when I have to go to the lawyers and say, okay, what's the prevailing perception and meaning behind the words that are written on
and
this?
how can it be misconstrued? Because you have to know that part too. And if you aren't
that's where I'm going. I start to see that. And I go, I don't like these words.
Right. If you're not using AI for your legal contracts, it's the next thing you need to go and do, because it's using AI to actually give you all those fundamentals in layman terms. In college, I was told the language of business was accounting, and I found out in my corporate job that wasn't necessarily true, that legal is the language of business.
Well, legal is for the rainy days, and it will prevail.
Yes.
I also have been using ChatGPT, even for small things like a loan for a friend. I've been able to put a document together in minutes, in minutes. In about 10 minutes, I had a full document, and it's the prompt, make sure to instruct the AI that you're using to be a legal professional in your state. Even if you find a lot of data out there, you can ask it to go use the deep research function to read the laws in the state, which has really been helpful because it's been more specific in my case. But AI is important. It will save you time. I didn't have that for a lot of the years.
Yeah.
So when I had to work in areas that before Working Geniuses, I just knew they were not making me thrive.
Right.
And there's
sucking up your energy.
It did. And there's this other concept that I've been really getting behind this year, which is to reinvest. As I scaled my business and I would make, I remember making my first $20,000 a month, and it was amazing. And I did that almost exclusively I had one person setting appointments for me. That was it. It was just all me, from selling the accounts, downloading them, submitting the applications, servicing them, finding the next client. I didn't reinvest early enough. And if I invested in an admin, or even in my case as a solo dad, I need to invest in a house manager. I need to invest in an EA. I need to invest in a chief of staff, because then I can force multiply my actions. So a big part of me is like, I don't need someone to come do the dishes. I can do the dishes. I don't mind cleaning. I've been doing it forever. But when I finally met someone who was like, yeah, I'll help you out, what a difference it made for me. And so there's this income we all want to make. And it's great that you gave to your team. And this isn't about income for you anymore. This is about giving back, living in your working genius, which is 10xing companies and finding how they can improve. And I see that you're doing this for your clients, not just for you, which is amazing.
That's the recipe, Tyler. If you're not willing to promise growth and their potential and helping them work in their genius, we're likely going the wrong way.
Be willing to invest in your home and your business. If you're making good money, $100,000, $150,000, what would it cost to get a little help at home? Nice. This is something that my pride wouldn't let me bring help in, because I was not above doing the work. But I've now realized that if I was to provide an opportunity for someone else who sees that work as their step right now in life, that freed me up to do things I didn't even know I needed to do. Much like you, I've averaged this year up to prior to the movie, 43 hours of fixed meetings a week. Booked meetings, let alone all the extra phone calls and the work that's required afterwards. And so bringing in those to assist. Right now, I don't have the EA set up the way I'd like to. I use a virtual assistant. I'm going to bring someone stateside to work with me. I don't have the chief of staff. These are moves I'm making right now, and these are investments. And the house manager is a big one. I need someone to help with that, because I don't want to give up picking my kids up from school.
We have 4 words, Tyler, that we're using in every conversation at Engage: highest and best use. We're running that through that thought captive on, is this my highest and best use? And that's exactly what you're saying.
Of time.
Yeah.
Of time for me. Highest and best use
energy,
of time.
Of your talent. It's amazing.
Well, that's a filter for any direction, but time is the key for me for everything.
Good for you.
And if someone else can do it better, that's better time spent for them than it is for me. Vern, I enjoy this conversation. So there's some big takeaways here. The concept of go. And we need that reminder. I need that reminder, because there are days where I don't have the energy, where I just want to lay on the love sack and I don't want to go. And some days I don't. Some days I just relax. And that creates a stress for me. And maybe you feel it too, where I didn't do much today. I even recently had the kids for a day on a weekend. No, it was a weekday. And it's during the summer, and I've not figured that out yet. And so they spend a lot more time on the iPad and TV. And I told them, hey guys, I wasn't a great dad today. And they looked a little confused at 7 and 9. But then I explained to them, part of being a dad is ensuring that you're growing, that you have activities, you have a plan, and you're looking to me for that plan. And today I didn't give you that plan. So I'm going to do better tomorrow. Because I want them to have that expectation of me. And I want them to have the expectation just when dad's working, you don't get free reign to get on TV. Because kids know, they come right up when you're on the phone. Those of you with kids understand, hey, Dad, can I have this? Hey, Dad, can I have this? And I'm like, normally it's like, hey, would have been younger times, go to your mom, but now it's not. So it's like, oh, okay, you can do that.
I have 2 kids and 4 soon to be 4 grandboys. So I get that.
Don't you have one coming today?
The 4th one's coming, was due yesterday.
That's right.
And so we're waiting every minute. Yeah.
Well, I hope you get home. And this concept of go, the concept of serving your clients is a really great reminder for all of us. Because even though I believe in everything you said, just hearing it again reinforces the direction that I need to go. And not everybody can invest millions into building all of these solutions, but they can invest in spending the time to look at what their clients need, bring those solutions to the table for their clients, and be willing to expand their comfort zone, because today they may be an expert in one solution, but the world we live in now requires you to be an expert in multiple solutions. And if you're not the expert, who can you bring that to the table to be the expert, but through one engagement?
Yes.
And that's Ingage IT, because you engage with your customers. Thank you, Vern.
Tyler, appreciate it. Thank you, guys.